Imagine being 18 years old again. You're told that you're going to college and it's the only path to success. You're told it's an investment in your future and that will open every single door in the world. Now imagine signing documents that you barely understand, taking tens of thousands of dollars in loans before you even have had a full-time job, paid a rent, you paid any bills, or even learned how compound interest works. And then imagine stepping into adulthood only to discover that the cost of living has skyrocketed. Rent is at an all-time high, groceries cost more every month, and your paycheck can barely keep up, all while you owe more money than you've ever even seen in your life. This isn't hypothetical. This is the reality of 44 million Americans. Today I want to talk about a crisis that affects almost every young adult in this country. The increasing of cost of living, the outrageous rise in college tuition, and the explosion of student debt. A triple threat is that shaping the future of an entire generation. But more importantly, I want to persuade you that this crisis is not inevitable, and we have the power to change it. And what that is showing is how expensive college tuition can be, and the slight or huge rise of every year of how, like, the cost of being able to even go to college is. The rising cost of living, the foundation of the problem. Let's start with something everybody feels. Let's start with something that everybody feels. Whether you are a student, a parent, or simply someone trying to make ends meet, the cost of living is rising faster than most people's wages. Housing, groceries, utilities, transportation, nearly everything essential has increased dramatically. And to put this into perspective, rent today is over 30% higher than it was just 10 years ago. Groceries cost anywhere from 20 to 40% more depending on the region you live in. Energy and utility costs are the highest they've ever been in decades. And inflation is eating away at buying power in a way younger generations have never seen. In other words, every dollar buys less. Every paycheck stretches thinner. Every decision carries more weight. This is the environment young people step into as they enter college, already feeling financial pressure before tuition even comes into the equation. And that brings us to the second part of the crisis. Right here is a picture that that I use to, what is earning, spending, saving, investing. So, college and all this stuff can, maybe be a little easier. The skyrocketing cost of tuition. If you feel that college is more expensive than it used to be, you're right. College tuition has not simply risen. It has launched into the stratosphere. Let me give you a number that does not feel real. College tuition has increased 1,200% since 1980. And no, not 12%, not 120%, 1,200%. Meanwhile, wages, especially for young adults, have barely budged in comparison. Here's the shocking part. In 1980, a student couldn't pay for a year of college tuition with a summer job. Today, a typical student working the same job would need over 1,000 hours. Could pay for a college tuition with a summer job. Today, a typical student working the same job would need over 1,000 hours, more hours than, even exist in summer, to cover the same exact year of the person in 1980. This means the old advice of just work your way through school is no longer realistic. Young people can't work enough to even pay for school. Tuition has grown too fast. Wages haven't kept up. And so students are pushed towards the only option left, which is debt. This is a picture I used for, students trying to calculate how much they're going to need, how much they're going to go in debt, because with the prices skyrocketing, it's just the reality. Sorry, I can't show the pictures the greatest like this. Student debt crisis, a burden like no other. Here's where all the damage begins. Student debt has become one of the biggest financial burdens in the United States. Let's paint the picture. Total student debt has reached nearly $1.7 trillion. The average borrower owes about $38,000. Many owe more than $100,000. And interest continues to climb long after graduation. But these numbers don't tell the whole story. What student debt really does is delay life. People are delaying buying homes, getting married, starting families, starting a business, start saving for retirement, and even pursuing careers they are passionate about. Not because they are irresponsible, not because they made bad choices, but because they are drowning in an economic system that expects them to start adulthood with the equivalent of mortgage, except instead of a house, they got a degree. And it's not just about the money. Carrying debt affects mental health, stress levels, job choices, and long-term financial security. It follows people into their 30s, 40s, and even 50s. A degree is supposed to create an opportunity, not decades of fear. So how did we reach this crisis? There are three main drivers. Declining public funding for education. States used to heavily subsidize public colleges. Today, many have cut funding by 20 to even 50%, shifting all the costs to students. Institutions raising prices faster than inflation. Universities built new buildings, expanded administration staff, and increased operational costs, passing it all on to the students. The culture that equates successes with a degree. College became the default option, but no one stopped to question whether the price still matched the promise. And why this all matters, even if you're not a student. You might wonder, if I'm not in college or carrying debt, why should I care? Here's why. Debt affects the entire economy. When young people can't buy homes, can't start families, can't invest, and can't spend money freely, the entire economy slows down. A generation with less financial stability means lower entrepreneurship, fewer skilled workers, less consumer spending, more reliance on social services, and a weaker long-term economy. This is not a student problem, it's a national problem. And even more importantly, it is a solvable problem. What we can do about it. This is the part where persuasion becomes action. Because the point of the clear talk is not simply to describe the crisis, but it's to show that we have power to fix it. Here are 3 realistic, achievable solutions. Make college more affordable again. States must reinvest in public colleges. We already know this works. It's how tuition stayed low for decades. If we restore funding to previous levels, tuition could drop up to 40%. Expand access to schools and trade programs. College isn't the only path. High-paying trades are in demand. Electricians, plumbers, HVAC technicians, welders, computer technicians. These careers often require a no 4-year degree, pay extremely well, and come with little to no debt. A stronger trade system gives students options and reduces the pressure to enter expensive universities unnecessarily. 3. Reform student loan interest and repayment programs. At minimum, policymakers can reduce interest rates, expand income-driven repayment programs, cap interest so loans cannot double. Even small reforms can dramatically change outcomes for millions. A vision for the future. Imagine a future where, students can graduate without fear. Tuition is a lot more reasonable. Young people can afford homes, families, and careers. Debt is not a lifelong sentence. And education is a bridge to opportunity, not a financial trap. It's not idealistic. It's possible and within reach if we choose to make it a priority. Here's a little saying. I like that, is, I think, a good picture and a good saying for people who may be going through the debt and going through financial problems. The path to achieving financial independence starts with a single step. Initiate it today. And for me, that kind of gets me inspired, take that first step of, learning how to save, trying to get more hours for work, how to handle the debt and everything like that. You can't wait till tomorrow and these conditions. You got to take the step now. You got to go for it now. And you got to get everything done now. And that's just the world we live in right now. So let me bring you back to that 18-year-old. The one signing loan forms that they don't understand. This is the same picture of, you don't want to end up like this, where you don't know what you're doing. Imagine telling them, your future is worth more than the debt you'll carry. Imagine telling them that we care enough to fix the system that they're walking into. Imagine giving them the future where education builds opportunity instead of barriers. The rising cost of living, the soaring tuition rates, and the overwhelming student debt crisis are not unsolvable. There are choices that we've allowed, and choices we can change. Education should open doors, not close them, not chain people to debt, not force them into decades of financial strain. Today I'm asking you to see this crisis for what it is, and to believe in what we can build when we choose fairness, opportunity, and change. Because the price of a future should never be a lifetime of debt. Thank you for listening, and good luck to everybody.